Hey there YouTube, JR Juggernaut1 here. I'm making this video later than I wanted to, but just a lot of stuff's been going on over the past week. I originally intended to have part 2 of my ban list video up relatively quickly, but a few things got in the way, and then I basically just said screw it, because by the time I had a prediction list discussion thing, but by the time I was ready to do it, the so-called real ban list was already circulating, and it seemed pretty likely that it was the list anyway, so yeah, my plans were kind of brought down. But at the same time, I don't want to, I still want to get what I think what I would have predicted anyway, just out there. So in the description, I'm going to leave a list of the changes that I was predicting originally. This was from the original list I had written up, so yeah, just so you know. But I do want to use this video to talk about the ban list, what I personally think about some of the changes, and I will have a few other videos regarding this ban list discussion now over the next week or so. At least one vid I want to talk about is well, at least one vid is going to be my regional report. I do have a regional this weekend in Edison, New Jersey. I will be going to that on Saturday. So I will hopefully get my invite. I will hopefully do decently well. One of the things I always like about Edison is that you can get your invite when you're X2, excuse me, X3, but it is 9 long rounds. So I do, obviously that there is that part of it that is a concern. Still, it's going to be a pretty cool event. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing a bunch of Duels Grounds people, going with my friends, etc. So without further ado, let's talk about the ban list, because surprisingly not much happened. Honestly, I look at this list and I think to myself, I understand most of the decisions Konami made, but I'm also having this problem of, Konami could have easily done more. I think this list was kind of a way of showing how Konami doesn't view the format as very problematic, which is true. I thought this was a pretty damn good format, but the format only got worse over time, and I don't think it got to the point of bad, but it got to the point where I really did want to see some more changes, and unfortunately a lot of those changes didn't come. So that's unfortunate, but we will move on. Nonetheless, I do think that at least, like I said, most of the changes were pretty good. I do, some of them better than others, but I hope the next format isn't completely degenerate, for lack of a better word. I'm worried because we've got all this new stuff coming out, the Harpy support, the Elemental Dragons, the Spellbook of Divine Judgment thing, whatever you call that. It's stuff like that that's really concerning me in the near future. So, enjoy the format the good format while it lasts. But let's get on to the list. So there were only 2 cards that were banned. This really surprises me, because there was a bunch of cards Konami could have banned, and I don't think either of these cards were on anybody's list as cards that need to be banned the most. We of course have Sangan and Wind-Up Carriers and Matey. Both of these bans are perfectly legit. I am perfectly okay with both of these bans. But, again, I still think that people, my problem is I still think, I still look at it as, I would have liked to see certain other cards banned more. Pot of Avarice would have been a great ban. Monster Reborn, BLS, something like that. That would have been fabulous. Sangan's great, though, because it really does hurt the power of Tour Guide, which is a card that obviously should never have been made. Sangan's a card that in reality should have gone a long time ago. The ability to search for so many cards within your deck is just nuts. I mean, I think we kind of saw how broken, though, it was for Rabbit. That was the real first deck where the fact of the matter was, it wasn't so much that you had to play, like with decks like Plants, you didn't necessarily have to play Tour Guide, but you knew the deck was going to be best with it. This Rabbit was a deck where you were dumb if you didn't play Tour Guide because of all the combos it had. Sangan searched Rabbit, and Tour Guide made for instant Levier to reuse Rabbit. Dumb. Nonetheless, like I said, I still view this. I still like this ban. I digress, but banning Sangan is still going to be very helpful. It means that Tour Guide is going to become less powerful, and it also means that decks that, it means 3 Call of the Haunted isn't really as bad. I think 3 Call of the Haunted was a problem because of Sangan, and now it won't be so much. It doesn't mean agents will take a hit as a result, but it is what it is. As for Zenmaity, good riddance, as I've actually been testing, and I will get to this in another. I will talk more about this in another video. Windups are far from dead, and if Zenmaity was still around, they just limited Magician. They're nothing. Almost nothing would be done to the deck. Does having only one Magician hurt the deck? Absolutely. But what it really only does is that it makes the first turn plays a lot less powerful. It does make their plays overall less powerful, but the biggest hindrance is the fact that you're hardly ever going to have a Shock Lock with only one Magician. And before anyone says Summoner Monk, Magician, Shark, Summoner Monk, Spell, and Shark is also Shock Lock, you shouldn't be playing Summoner Monk to begin with. I tested it. It's garbage. Moving on. But nonetheless, Zenmaity is a card that just gives a lot of advantage, and in a way it makes sense that it's the first Xyz monster to be banned, so I'm okay with this. Limited to one. White Magician. Personally, if they had hit Shark, I think this deck would have taken a bigger hit. Yes, I am fully aware of everything that the deck is capable of with one Magician. The deck's capable of a lot with one Magician, but part of that reason is because of 3 Shark. You basically replace the extra copies of the lost copies of Magician with Call of the Haunted. Boom, you have yourself a deck again. Shark makes the deck playable still because of how powerful it is. It's really what made Windup so good last year. Rabbit was powerful, but it was the release of Shark where people pretty much knew, yeah, this deck is going to be dumb. Very dumb. One Day of Peace. As much as I want to believe Konami was trying to stop degenerate solitaire decks from, like Chainburn or Exodia from getting better, we all know it really has more to do with that Gishki FTK, that Gishki FTK deck that's been going around. I mean, I'm so glad that they hit this card, but the deck's not dead. I still think the deck's really hurt. One Day of Peace was the deck's it was one of the best things about it, because you could recycle One Day of Peace, and you could just keep stalling and stalling until you deck out your opponent dumb things. Granted, hitting Ivagishki Mind August might have been better, but I'm also liking the fact that this hurts more decks than just the Gishki FTK deck, so I'm okay with this, nonetheless. Solemn Warning. I agree with Jojo Orlando. I actually think this is probably the biggest change biggest impact we're going to see in the new format. Warning at 1 means a lot of things. Warning's a big card. Even without priority, Warning's still huge in its ability to negate certain cards. Lagia, Shien, etc. Like, Warning, in my opinion, I'm kind of bothered that they put Warning to 1. Only because Warning's a very good card against a lot of decks for various reasons. Like, what makes Warning good is that it's hard to stop. It gives you a great out to certain cards if you're worried they have Lance. Against Fire Fists, and especially Mermails. Warning is the best counter to Megalo. Outside of, like, some, in addition to, like, Mind Crush or something like that. So, Warning, I don't know how this is going to shape the meta. We're going to see, but it's definitely going to have a big impact. Limited to 2. Tsukuyomi. Not really going to do anything. I really don't think a card at 2 is going to make a difference. Thunder King, I'm kind of bothered by this because I think Thunder King should have just stayed at 3. I understand they're kind of trying to push the certain product, but I really don't think semi-limiting it is going to make a big change. And on top of that, I would rather, Thunder King is a very balanced card that slows down the meta, which I like. I don't the idea of semi-limiting it. It's just stupid and counterproductive to me. And finally, Advanced Ritual Art. I'm bothered by this card coming back for the simple fact that the only decks that utilize it are pretty degenerate decks, like Demise, OTK, and Herald of Perfection. I dislike both of those decks, so quite frankly, I do not want to see them come back. Good God. So yeah, and then finally the cards that were unlimited. Spore. I'm glad this card came back. Part of me wishes Lone Fire would have come back, though. I don't know how good having multiple Spores is going to be. We're just going to have to wait and find out. Blackwing Kalute the Moonshadow. If people think Blackwings are going to come back just because of this card, I think people need to wake up. No offense. I'm not saying the deck's not going to be better, but I am saying, considering what little impact the deck has now, I don't understand what a third Kalute is actually going to do. Something I was going to mention in my second part of deck cards that I think should be semi-limited and unlimited, I mentioned that I think if you really want to give the deck more strength, bring Gale or Whirlwind back to 2, something like that. Bringing Kalute to 3 is basically saying we're going to help the deck, but we're basically going to be doing nothing for it. Lumina to 3, I do not like this. I don't think the deck's going to be back to being good. If anyone thinks Lightsworn is going to be the best deck now, no. And it's not simply because of the lack of charge. Lightsworns have gotten to the point where early D-Fissure absolutely murders them in spite of their outs. The deck's not nearly as versatile. It isn't very versatile. There's just, I don't see the deck making a comeback. Smoke Signal to 3. Probably what helps 6 Sams more is the fact that Warnings to 1, not Smoke Signal to 3, but nonetheless, I don't like this. I don't want 6 Sams coming back. The deck is kind of fun to me, but at the same time, I don't want us to go back to having 2 Xian. Or just having a 6 Sam format. That was frustrating. And finally, Mind Crush. Not gonna lie, I don't know how I feel about this. I'd originally posted it. I was originally gonna talk about putting Mind Crush to 3, and then I realized it's probably not a good idea. All this really is gonna do though is help Dark Worlds. Dark Worlds is the only deck that I could actually see siding, maining/siding 3 Mind Crush. So outside of them, I don't think this is gonna really have an impact on the format. But shall see. Given the fact that it's Dark World, it could have a very big impact, given, that's the deck we're talking about here. Okay, so that's basic discussion. In terms of what I think is going to, well, we all know Fire Fist, we all know Mermails are going to be big next format. As I'll talk about in another video, do I think Windups are going to be up there too? Abso-freaking-lutely. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I might actually be playing Windups for the regional this weekend. Yeah, you heard me. I'm at a loss for words. Alright guys, but hope you enjoyed. I'll have another video up soon, and peace.